This essay example, as well as thousands of others, is available in text format on our website for free and without registration. Simply Google Ivy Panda Free Essays.
Problem statement. BitTorrent technology is a technology developed to enable users to share big files over networks. However, the files to be shared are patented, under copyright, and owned by media houses. This then makes implementation of the technology very tricky because whereas it may be helpful and probably offer convenience, it could also lead to infringement of copyright laws. Introduction. Stakeholder analysis involves identifying the parties that have interests in the project. It is vital that as many stakeholders as possible be identified and involved in the analysis so as to increase the chances of success of the project in question. In the above stated case, the main stakeholders were identified as the media houses, the BitTorrent technology inventors, media regulating agencies, projected beneficiaries of the BitTorrent technology, network administrators, law enforcement agencies, copyright law enforcers. All these stakeholders have to be categorized according to how much the project is going to affect them and how much influence they have on the project. This then allows for them to be categorized as follows: stakeholders of high importance and high influence, stakeholders of high importance but little influence, stakeholders of high influence but low importance, stakeholders of low importance and low influence. The analysis. All the above stakeholders are essential in any analysis because they determine if the project succeeds or not, regardless of whether they are of importance. Stakeholders of high influence and high importance are those that are directly affected by the project and are also in a position to highly affect whether or not the project goes through. From the above list, the stakeholders that can be deemed of high importance and varying influence may be the media houses, the BitTorrent technology inventors, media regulating agencies, copyright law enforcers. The media houses are significant because some of the files to be shared by the technology are under copyright and owned by them. They own the material that makes the technology relevant and, therefore, have a very high influence on whether the technology works or not. If they decide to completely halt the process by claiming their right of ownership of the files, then the project would fail because the technology would be irrelevant if there is no material to be shared. BitTorrent is another critical group because it has the technology to develop the project. If they decide to halt the technology and not develop it, then the project would be in vain because there would be no technology to advance it. They, therefore, have a very high influence on whether or not the project goes through. Media regulating agencies, on the other hand, are important even though they will not be directly affected by the technology. Their role in this would be to ensure that whatever is agreed upon by the stakeholders of high influence and importance is followed by all parties. They would probably have some chance of mediating between the most important stakeholders, which, in this case, would be the technology inventors and the media houses. Copyright law enforcers have been identified as having a very strong influence on this particular project even though they are of low importance because it is upon the laws they enforce that the project must be based. If these agencies decide that the project would infringe on the existing laws, then the project would definitely be halted and probably abandoned. They can, however, in some cases, amend the laws to accommodate new projects or provide some means of mediation to reach an agreement between stakeholders of high importance and influence. Media regulating agencies and law enforcement agencies, however, are of very low importance in the project because the project does not affect them directly. Their role is peripheral in just ensuring that the project runs within the law and in a regulated manner in the event that it is successfully appraised. Network administrators are stakeholders of low influence and importance because they only provide the networks for the distribution of the files, but have no influence on whether the project goes through. They also host materials other than the shared files, and these files would not be their primary business. Last but not least, projected beneficiaries are considered stakeholders of high importance because they would directly benefit from the project by accessing the shared files. They, however, have very little influence on the project as it is a finished product that would only be available to them when ready. This report on BitTorrent technology, stakeholder analysis was written and submitted by a student just like you. The IvyPanda samples database hosts thousands of works similar to this one on various subjects. Visit ivypanda.com to find what you are looking for.